All right, good. And we're live. This thing seems to be working all right.
Hey, 5x5 over here on my 2012 and a half Mac. But hey guys, what's going on? Apparently, there was a protest today over in Chicago. So Burnside, what do we know?
All right, well, this happened over in the neighborhood I just so happen to live at, over at Man Park. And that's basically, pretty much in the smack dab center of Hegewisch. It's the one main park that we have there. We've got a swimming pool and everything over there, although thankfully all of that was closed because they're closed on Saturdays. So they pretty much just used the pavilion that they had in the area. And they pretty much everyone came in their own separate vehicles and vans and such, and they set up a whole bunch of water. Everyone had brought a whole bunch of signs. They brought food and everything,
Nice.
and it was actually pretty civilized. They kept it constitutional. They didn't cause too much trouble. It's just that they spooked with a lot of people because they basically went on the street instead of stand on the sidewalk and marched through Hegewisch.
Now, was any of that area cordoned off?
Oh yeah, the police gave them an
Okay.
escort the entire way.
Okay. Just because I had a similar experience when I went to the UMass Boston protest a couple of weeks ago. Basically, you ended up having to park actually at the lot, which was the final area, about a half a mile or so down the street, which actually worked out pretty well because you walked over there, they had the thing, and by the time you march back, you're already back at your car. So it's like, oh, that was actually planned out because that's one of the reasons I went to the one by the college because I'm like, okay, the college is technically closed, but we still got around 600 or so people. My experience was most people generally tried to socially distance within their groups. However, once we did actually start marching, social distancing was kind of we were closer than 6 feet just in many instances there. However, at least when I was at the one I didn't, everyone that I saw within there was wearing a mask. So
Mm-hmm.
did you have a similar thing down there, or?
Yeah, majority of the people that were marching around were wearing masks. There were a handful
Okay.
of people like myself that didn't.
Okay.
I wasn't bothered wearing one of those things. I just had my gas mask in my pack, just in the off case, and didn't need it.
Now, were you able to keep distance? Were you marching along with folks in the center there, or because the way we have the legislation up here is that if you can socially distance, not really a big issue. However, if you're going to be
Mhm.
cram packed, they ask that you wear a mask. So, like if I'm going into a grocery store, most of the public areas, most of the folks typically are wearing masks. Do I see some folks occasionally that maybe they forgot one, or maybe they don't really want to wear one? If it's on a small scale, maybe not the biggest deal. Again, I tend to see it more of a sign of respect as well. Um, and I also, my mom got me a little red, white, and blue one, so I kind of like the way it looks. So,
Nice. Now, at some point, I was going to attempt to get an actual press sticker and a flag patch that Scoob was showing me
hmm,
for this, but for the time being, I needed something that said press. So what I basically did is I
you just
just
spray paint.
yeah, I painted it matte black, and then I got a paint marker and some stencils, and I just put press on, biggest font I could
It's
get.
just
And
when
then
you look forward, I see res, and it just makes me think of like battle resing somebody like with your druid party member in World of Warcraft. Like, we need a battle res. The healer's down. The healer's down. Shift out of cat form. Bring him back real quick.
oh god, I remember that from the dot hack days.
That's OG,
All
OG.
right.
So back to the rally. Back to the rally. So continue. So this was held at. It sounds like a pavilion. Is that kind of like a
Yeah.
football kind of stadium where they have like the big bleachers and stuff, or am I thinking of something else?
Oh no, no, it was very small. It's basically like when you go to a park when you have those small pavilions where you can
Okay.
set some stuff up. It's
All right.
basically one of those, except it was smaller than the average ones you'd have over at a regular park.
Hmm.
Because Man Park's got like a whole bunch of different things smacked into it, and that pavilion is very small because it's right next to a monument that's used for World War One, World War Two, Vietnam, and Korea. It's a small concrete slab that has the names of a whole bunch of
All
people
right.
from the area
All right.
that fought and died in those wars.
Okay. So when you say pavilion, you're talking about more of like a large gazebo or
Pretty
something like
much.
that. Okay. No, but you said
Yeah.
they had water and snacks because that was something I did also experience when we went there, and they were saying like our organizers, I think they had like orange shirts or something, and they were going around. They were offering us waters, snacks. I made use of it. There was an individual going around with some hand sanitizer, so my brother and I, we grabbed a little bit of that. Uh, but I mean, they were very accommodating and as well, just because it's like, all right, you're having an event. You got a bunch of folks out there. Folks are wearing masks, and you don't want to get too hot or anything. You don't want to dehydrate. So I mean, that seems logical. And who doesn't like to eat and drink?
Hmm.
So
Oh yeah, it was really hot. God, it was ungodly hot. At one point, we were at the main intersection in Hegewisch of 132nd in Baltimore,
hmm.
where they had the Boost Mobile Store and the Environmentalist Task Force, where they were doing their main thing, where they all took a knee for 9 minutes, however many seconds it was, for this guy to kick the bucket, and it was
A
just so
46, I
ungodly
believe.
hot that my camera actually started. It gave me a warning that's like shutting down in 30 seconds. Too fucking hot.
I've had that happen.
Yeah, and I wore a different jacket, but that one's in the car. I'm keeping it there, and I basically, in one of my pockets, I actually had a flask that I had Gatorade in, and I went through that thing like crazy. And I had on my hip, I actually had a canteen, and I've still got it because it was so.
Now, don't you think it may have been a little wiser to have maybe the Gatorade in the canteen rather than the flask? Because the flask may make. I'm not sure what the container laws are over there in Chicago, but some
Oh
places
no,
aren't.
nobody really cared as far
I
as me
realize on the
carrying it.
priority level of things. I'm just saying. But well, that's a cool canteen.
Yeah, but I had this and a flask that was, about half the size of this roughly. Just with water, just because it was so godforsakenly hot. And I've got my Kevlar press helmet on. I've got a fatigue jacket like this on, and then I've got a 3-day pack on my back. That's it's basically, some people call it a butt pack, where you just toss a couple miscellaneous things in there. And I had my credentials in there from the First Amendment Press Association, a medical kit, and my gas mask in there. And then I had my cell phone and the power pack for it, and one of the other side pockets in that. And then I was just sweating like a pig.
Well, these things happen. About how long did the event go on for?
Say what?
How long did the event go on for?
It went on. Let's see, altogether, they started about 2:30, and I think they finally finished up close to 7 when they were actually done cleaning everything up. That is the one good thing. I don't like their politics at all, or their general message in that. But they were very immaculate. They did not make a mess. They cleaned everything up, and they stayed within their constitutional rights. So, First Amendment, they didn't, cause me too any trouble or anything. They were actually pretty well civilized. But they made their ideas known,
Yeah.
and they didn't give me too much of a hard time. There's a couple people that were asking me to go and blotch them out of the footage and that, because they didn't like zipping around.
That is one of the things that I found when I'm on the ground out at places. I try not to like shove a camera in somebody's face. So like when I'm doing a shot about things, like people are marching, like I'll either have like a backup shot, kind of like go up on like a small hill just so I can get kind of a wide angle shot, and I don't really keep the camera in anyone's face. Like I'm kind of like scanning around just so like if you see somebody there, it's kind of like in motion rather than having it be right up in their face, because I find that some folks will kind of take that as a provocation. It's like, well, what are you putting this in my face? And it's like, even if they're not necessarily doing anything, it's just kind of like all of a sudden you got this thing in your face. It's like, what are you trying to do? And there is also, excuse me, are a lot of folks that are concerned about doxing and stuff. So it's like, regardless of whatever side somebody's on, it's like they don't necessarily want them to be seen by really anybody for an extended period of time. Whereas if you're just kind of scrolling around, could you still do it? Maybe, but at least you kind of have that air of I'm just trying to document what's going on. That's just kind of what I found can minimize chances of provocation. And this kind of goes
Yeah.
into what was it? I heard. I think it was on the Jocko Willink podcast the other day. He said like the ability to deal with like people that can be just very aggressive or violent in public. He's like,
Mhm.
if you don't make eye contact and just kind of doing the thing, a lot of times they're just in their own zone. Just as soon as you make eye contact, as soon as you have that, now you're entering their world. So I think there's a metaphor
Uh,
there with the camera a little bit, if that makes any sense.
yeah, no, I made eye contact with a handful of them in that, and that's they only got really snippy when like they're all doing their 9 and a couple seconds worth of sauce. That I'm just swearing in German underneath my breath because it's so godforsakenly hot, and I'm trying to get like good pictures of a couple of people that are
Hmm.
like taking different poses and stuff as they're doing their thing.
So now,
But no,
now
aside from that,
go
it
on.
wasn't too difficult. What I mainly did though while I was
Hmm.
filming is I didn't try to get into the crowd. I
Huh.
stayed on the outside of it.
Okay.
So I followed along with the bicycle cops that were
So
escorting them.
they had the cops kind of in the rear on the bicycles as well.
Yeah, what they did is they had marked and unmarked patrol SUVs,
Hmm.
and they had two regiments of bicycle cops.
Okay. See, from my experience, they had probably half dozen to maybe 10 or so uh, police officers on bicycles, keeping probably roughly about, to my estimation, about 50 yards back as the crowd would move. We kind of like do some chants and everything. See, my situation was I also wanted to pay respect to a fellow American that lost his life in an encounter with a state empowered agent. It's
Hmm.
like I kind of planned on going down there and basically take a knee for like.
Yeah. Beams, it looks like we lost you there. Yep, looks like you froze, man. Oh, well, wait a couple seconds for him to delag. That's a bit of a pain. I don't know if I should wait for him or if I should just kind of keep going with recapping the events and that. Come on, man. Stop lagging. Fix your lag, man. Ah. Oh, and he dropped out. All right. I'll hop back in a couple seconds. Anyways, I'll just pick up where I left off. Because what I tried to do when I was filming is I tried my best not to get into the crowd unless I needed to. I was mainly trying to remain on the sidewalk or just on the street outside the perimeter of their march, just so I could get much footage as possible from one end to the other, and either paced behind them and just let all of them pass a little bit, and then got up to the front and let them pass again. Thankfully, it wasn't too much trouble. The only thing was a couple of the neighbors were pretty pissed off that they were marching, and they got in a couple of verbal altercations with them. But thankfully, nothing too violent came out of that. Just people chatting at each other back and forth and shit about that. But for the most part, it was all right. The one thing that was very interesting that I didn't expect whatsoever is a black cowboy showed up, and he's apparently some guy who's relatively famous on Twitter or Instagram or one of those things. And it's a black guy whose horse is named France, and him and France came rolling in, and the black guy with really nice looking cowboy boots. And it sucks. The only thing the guy was missing was a cowboy hat. He didn't have a cowboy hat on. He had a tan plate carrier, and he had these really nice brown cowboy boots that matched the saddle that he had on France. And I believe France was a spotted horse of some kind or other. I'm not too good with horses. All I can tell you is that it wasn't a Clydesdale. And he was over at the main intersection on Baltimore Avenue, and then later on, he actually wound up riding France straight through Man Park. I got a little bit of footage of that. It's actually pretty cool. And on one occasion, when they got done with their taking the knee for 9 minutes and however many seconds it was, he actually stood up on his horse. Man stood up on his horse and started giving a speech. So I got to give the guy credit for balance. I mean, you've got to have a well trained horse for it to support your weight and not move whatsoever. His horse was very well tamed, and want to say there's about 100 people there, maybe a little over 100 people, and the horse did pretty well in crowds. Normally, whenever you hear about, you know, horses getting involved in all these protests, so there's people attacking them, people freaking them out, and all that. And thankfully, everyone had the common sense to leave France the hell alone. Just let his horse, make sure that cowboy didn't fall off and crack his head open. So that at least went good. Yep, we got scoop hopping in. All right, good. Here. All right, let's give him a couple seconds here. All right, so let me know whenever you're ready, Scoob.
What's going on?
Oh, not too much. Memes just dropped out because he lagged out, so I'm resending him an invite. I was just telling the audience about France, the Kevlar Cowboy's horse.
Right.
Yeah, this is the one thing I didn't expect, and I actually got really nice footage of him riding the horse through Man Park.
Cool.
It's just that, like, I didn't like. This guy must have really trained his horse because there's around roughly 100 or so of these people, and everyone had the common sense not to screw with the horse. They didn't spook it. It was pretty well behaved and everything. Even a couple people were able to pet it.
Cool.
I didn't try to because I wanted to keep a little bit of distance from it because, almost 20 people surrounding a goddamn horse because they act like they've never seen a horse before.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not too keen on horses. I don't like anything that big. I don't know. I mean, we got them around here too. The cops, they ride the horses, and we got the horse trails up over by Belmont and that sort of thing. But I'm not like too familiar. It's not like I've never seen them. I seen horses. I think like 2-3 weeks ago up over at the park. But you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things. Yeah, it ain't my thing. Horses and motorcycles, just not anything I was ever into. I like cars. That's just me. I like cars, and yeah, nah. I could never get into horses. I rode a horse once. I don't even know if it was a horse. I think it was a mule.
A mule.
No,
He
seriously,
rode a
seriously.
mule.
Yeah, it's all right. Funny story. There's this Hollywood producer. He and my older sister went to an acting class together. Back when he was still in the neighborhood, for whatever reason, I forget what, it might have been my birthday. I don't know. I was a kid. My sister says, "Yeah, we're gonna take you to ride a horse." I go, "Okay." And so we go, and I think it was like his grandfather's place or whatever. The man did not speak a word of English; he only spoke Sicilian. And go in the back, and there's this thing. It was, "Hey, Memes, how you doing?"
My 2012 Apple laptop that I killed with porn. It only got 11 minutes, man. It ain't my best, it ain't my worst, but 11 minutes is longer than average. Oh, we all
God
do it.
bless you, sir.
Oh my God, you're killing me here.
Yeah. So, he
You were the
takes
one that
me.
got shot at a few weeks ago. Sorry.
Yeah. That's all
Well,
good.
a few weeks ago, dude, a few days ago, they had a drive-by on my block. I only missed it because I was brushing my teeth.
Yeah, but when the dude you pull up next to literally pulls out his piece and then it goes off right as you're driving by, that, I don't know, even if that's just brandishing a weapon, man, like, you could have gotten killed.
Yeah, I was pretty close. That's why I got this genuine Italian Kevlar.
Do you know you could actually probably spin this and sell it to like a toothpaste company that you were using their brand of toothpaste, and that's the reason you're alive? I'm saying that you can think about that. That is a marketing thing.
My life was saved by Crest.
Yeah.
This is not intended to be a factual statement.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. Yeah, I missed a drive-by shooting because I was more worried about my dental health.
Dude, I mean, oral health is important right now. I'm fucking myself up right now with a cancer stick. Pardon my French.
Oh, I get you.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, it was nuts, meme. You should have seen the Kevlar Cowboy. I don't know what his actual name is, but that's what I'm calling him for the time being. As far as I know, this guy is one of those pro BLM people in that, and he makes it a thing of every couple events that are going on. He'll actually ride his horse into these events.
Really?
Like, the only thing this guy was missing was a black cowboy hat or a brown cowboy hat to go match his boots and saddle.
What was he, a police? You said a Kevlar cop? He was a police officer?
No, cowboy. This was an actual black cowboy who was participating in the march.
That's fucking awesome.
It is, right? Yeah. He was telling me the same thing.
Yeah, this guy literally just out of nowhere, you know, I'm sitting there, I'm getting footage of everyone else and stuff, and then just suddenly, plop, 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 plop. A black dude wearing a hand plate carrier on a horse. What the fuck? Okay, well,
wait. Cool. There's a literal cowboy showing it. You got this dude on film?
Yeah, I got it on film. Here, let me go see if I can.
That's awesome.
It is. It really is.
See that's a little blatant clickbait clip and everything. Of course, like we want the full raw footage and stuff, but yeah, you can toss little teases out there and everything. And nothing wrong with playing the system. Just be honest about it.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it here real quick. Cause I've got a good handful of footage here. I got
awesome.
No, not that one. Just give me a second to find this. Trust me, this is good.
I just hope this isn't going to be a summer of protests. I ain't dealing with this shit all summer.
Okay, hold on.
I think it is.
Let me screen share real quick.
Fucking bums.
I've got the horse named France and the cowboy who rode in on him.
The horse's name is France.
I know, right, bro? I swear to God, when he writes his memoir about all this shit, I told him he better use that as the title for his book, A Horse Named France.
France. That actually, I would pick up that book.
All right,
that's what I'm saying, right?
Here's the footage. Now, this is at the main intersection of 132nd in Baltimore, and pay close attention here.
Get those folks over there some hand sanitizer too, please.
Right there. There's France,
cool.
And there's the Kevlar Cowboy.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That really is.
That is badass, man.
Wait until you see this guy's boots. See? Those are nice. Those are real nice boots.
Dude, that guy is equipped.
Oh, hell yeah.
Sweet, man.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. This guy's got a regular infantry plate carrier, and he's got 4 mag pouches on the front of it. He didn't have magazines in him, but I mean, you know, he's at least prepared. You know, he's got the standard infantry, and he's got the nice saddle. His horse is well behaved. He's got all these people around him, and France was just having a good old time.
And he's also wearing a top knot like a samurai.
Yeah, that's been the in thing with a lot of these trendies.
No, the trendies are rocking a man bun. It actually looks like they got a fucking Danish on top of their head. This guy's actually got a top knot.
I thought the only difference was the amount of hair.
No, if you look, this guy's actually got an actual top knot. The way that it's kept, it's like an almost perfect ball of hair. Yeah, that's a top knot. That's the whole Bushido look. That's probably why he wasn't. Yeah, that's a man bun.
Yeah.
That goofy prick. Yeah.
Yeah, now watch. He actually got up on France. Like he's standing on top of the horse.
Fall.
That horse is awesome.
Oh yeah. Doing this trick that he's doing right here, you have to know what you're doing, and you have to know your horse, and your horse has to know you. You can't just get on top of any old horse and do what he's doing. So this guy is pretty good when it comes to being an equestrian.
Now, Scoob, don't hate on a horse named Francis Human.
You got issues.
If everybody starts sticking together, we'll be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, do you see that? Just how calm the horse is?
Yeah.
And the balance this guy has, correction, not 132nd, 133rd in Baltimore. I'm off a block. Uh-oh. Goofball I am. But yeah, is that neat or what?
Yeah. You know, it's the whole
That
thing
is
though with
talent.
these. No, it is. It's just the whole thing though with these protests. I mean, you know, if it was something legit, yeah, I'd back it. But they're talking epidemic and everything. Yeah, look, the guy shouldn't have died the way he did, but epidemic, we're reaching.
You don't think our fellow Americans literally just having a phone call? Because literally right before I got on here, I watched what was it, one of the Amazing Lucas's video. I guess they reopened the case, and you're looking. There's a 23-year-old man, 5'6", 140 pounds. He happened to be black. He went into a gas station or something to grab some like iced teas and stuff. He has a ski mask on. And this is in Colorado. It's not in the winter. It wasn't in the winter in Colorado, but the gentleman happens to be anemic. He gets very cold. My brother gets very cold and is always wearing long sleeves and stuff. So it's like, dude, this does happen. Somebody call. It's like, all right, is anybody in danger? No. The police like start talking to him to stop. He's got headphones on. They just go right up and grab him. And all of a sudden he's like, hey, leave me alone. I was pausing my music so I could like hear what you were saying and stuff. And they're like roughing him right to the ground and everything. I guess maybe it's some underlying health issues as well. So he starts throwing up and like the police are because, oh, don't get that on my shoe and stuff. And he's like apologizing for getting sick. And then all of a sudden they're saying, oh, whatever he's on right now, we don't know. It's like you're talking about 3 grown adult police officers with a 23-year-old. I don't want to say kid, but in relation to me, I remember when I was 23. In relation to now, I would say I was a kid. And it's like 5'6", 140 pounds, 3 officers. They end up giving him like 500 milligrams of ketamine or something like that, like a tranquilizer. Dude, man died.
Ketamine's not a tranquilizer. That's a.
It is. Well, it's a cat. No, that's a cat trank. But no, memes. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that ain't wrong. But what I'm saying is, it ain't an epidemic. It's not something
It's not genocide. It's not like a planned mass extermination.
Yeah. Police calls usually are not happy things.
No. I hear that. But also at the same time, when you also see videos of the gentleman that was basically drunk and had like a BB gun because he was an exterminator in like a motel, dude, man, he happened to be white. They're giving him all these orders. His shorts are falling out. He reaches to pull up his shorts, gets like 5 shots on the chest.
Yeah, it happens. It happens, man.
No. I hear it happens. Dude, we have people marching in the streets. We have like our cities literally burning down. Yeah. So it's like, okay, we see these things. I understand. Are there some folks that will end up having a mimetic that might be greater? But the sheer fact is our fellow Americans are dying. The country is literally on fire in some places. It's like, we can't fix this? Are you saying there aren't? Because I'm a big fan of saying it's like, don't hate the player, hate the game. Because right now there seems to be a major disconnect with individual Americans' knowledge of their civic rights and the training we're giving to our police forces right now. Because a lot of folks, they don't necessarily know their rights and everything. I'll give you an example. Back when we were in high school, we were doing stupid shit as well. One of my buddies, we ended up going back to a party because I was a dumbass. I'm like, oh, a girl I like is there. Let's go back to the party. And I had said at the same party, the police will be here in an hour. We showed up. Oh, there's not many cars. Cops pulling right behind us. They asked if they could search the car. My buddy didn't know his rights. They put him under arrest. We end up getting a ride with our other friend and stuff. We end up seeing him like 2:30 in the morning, like walking down the street. We end up picking him up and giving him a ride back to his house and stuff. I'm like, I just fucked over one of my best friend's lives just because I wanted to go back to a party. He didn't happen to know his rights. We found that out afterwards. And it's like, I really feel, because like when I took real estate course, like the lady teaching it, she happened to be an attorney. She's like, I think every American should have like 1 year, like just basic law experience, just so you know your rights. Because if a lot of these things can be avoided, because all of a sudden, like if a police officer starts going up and starts like being very aggressive to you, a lot of people's initial response is, "Hey, dude, get out of my face" and everything, and then they can say, "Oh, you're like disobeying an officer, you're like being insubordinate or something like that." And then you have a lot of folks where if their training is literally, you need to take control of this situation, and they're immediately putting hands on people. You're putting hands on people, putting them on the ground, and they're like, especially if in people's minds, if what they believe is like, I am going to die, people will fight back to try to avoid it, and unfortunately in some of these situations, these individuals die. That's fucked up.
And the one
I'm
is
saying we
on
can do
them
better.
because you don't put your hands to an officer. I knew that since I was a kid.
No, dude. I'm saying the officer puts hand on them so they respond. Because like if all of a sudden, like if you're not paying attention, somebody just grabs your shoulder, you're walking through downtown and stuff. It's like your initial response is to do something, whether you even know it's an officer or not. Now I understand you don't just frickin', if an officer's talking to you, you don't whine back and cock them or something like that. You're initiating violence. You're violating the NAP. It's just right now, it seems like your average American, like, due to a lot of interactions, and I think a lot of this is the training. Are there complete assholes out there? Yes. Yes, there are. They ain't exclusive to any one group or community. There are assholes all over the place. However, I really hate it when folks throw all of any group or community under the bus for the actions of some. So what I end up coming up with, at least in my head, in my opinion, is a lot of the systems that are in place right now are highly imperfect. Maybe they were designed to do one thing, and if we're in a different place right now, if we have certain technology, this is the thing. And as far as racial injustice and stuff goes, if you just want to look at it from a hard numbers perspective, and again, I'm going to go into other numbers that I don't even necessarily know are true, just to put things in perspective. Dude, if all of a sudden the police get a call, it's like, white male is a suspect, 6 foot, yada yada, husky build. Because there's literally been like, I think at one point APB put out for me, it's like 6 foot white male, husky build. I'm like, oh, they thought I was husky. But the thing is, it's like, okay, if I'm in an area where like 70, 80, 90% of the folks are white, it's like, okay, about half folks are gals, it's like, all right, there's probably a lot of folks around. However, if I happen to be black and I'm only 13% in an area or even 10% in an area, if all of a sudden they get a call for like a 6 foot black guy, you might not do a dang thing wrong, and all of a sudden you're getting pulled over, and you're irritated because you get pulled over a lot because you happen to be a minority in an area, and when there's a call for a 6 foot black man, they're looking for a 6 foot black man. I'll give you a personal example. I'm not a 6 foot black man, but I got pulled over the highway by a statey. Comes up to me, I'm in my little blue Honda. The cop immediately just rushes up to the window. He's like, "Is this your car?" I'm like, "Yes." And he doesn't even ask for my license or registration. He goes back to his car, comes back literally a minute later. He's like, "All right, get out of here." And I'm like, this may not have actually been my car. I'm pretty sure that I probably didn't look like who he was looking for. So it's like, I just try to keep that in my head and try to put myself in that person's shoes. If all of a sudden I'm getting hassled all the time in my life just because I happen to be a minority, I happen to fit a description, whether I'm doing something or not, it's, you probably end up going to get tired of it. And just, I think that's what a lot of folks are calling out. Just go on.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely.
Sucks, man. It's a two-way street thing, because that's the one problem. Is, a lot of people do get pissed off the cops. When I was younger, I used to get pissed off with them, but you give a little, you get a little. That's the whole thing.
You gotta take something
aside the propaganda that they got going on, and just look at the human factor. If you be civilized with these guys, they'll be civilized with you. And if they're like coming on you real heavy, just try and calm down. Do your best to de-escalate the situation. Because if you don't de-escalate it, well, that's when you wind up having issues.
That is another thing, because I think the badge cams, just because if you look at the whole thing with George Floyd, it's, if you look at the actual paperwork that was filed describing that situation, because pretty sure the folks knew that they were being recorded, but if you looked at the actual paperwork, it says, it's like, all right, They were called. They responded to a call. They detained the suspect. Suspect had a medical complication and was transferred over to the paramedics and then pronounced dead on scene. If they kind of left out the part where, yeah, we put him on the ground on his stomach, like next to like a storm grate.
Yeah, they left that out of there, and the fake money that he was handing around trying to get a couple things.
Yeah.
This is the thing, because here's the thing: everybody fucks up. It's like whether you happen to be the alleged suspect, whether you happen to be a cop, people f up, but people understand that. What drives people insane is when they get told about a situation, or they look at the situation maybe they've been in, and maybe an officer was getting very fancy with what they were saying happened. It's like, well, so and so is going for this and everything. Because let's face it, if you f up, nobody wants to f up because so many folks get in trouble now. And it's like, at least if you have footage, if you at least have it from multiple angles, or as many as you can, if somebody f's up, it's like, okay, maybe we could try to err on some forgiveness because there wasn't malice. However, when there is malice and folks cover it up, that is fucking injustice, man. So at least if we can actually detect when there is malice, you can basically start to have folks that's like, okay, maybe if you're trying to get away with some effed up shit, maybe you shouldn't be a cop because you're going to get caught. Even if you get away with it once, statistically, it's going to freaking come up with you. And I think that would promote a whole lot better behavior between officers and the public, as well as the public and the officers. Because if you know you got pulled over, and if a cop's going out of his way to be an ass to you and try to screw you over, if you have that evidence, you go to court, be like, look at what the officer's going to do to me. The judge may turn over to that officer and be like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're trying to pick a fight? So it's a level of accountability.
You're talking about the new app where you can actually like record the whole thing when the cop pulls you over?
I mean, technically you can do that with StreamYards right now, because now StreamYards is mobile for even iOS.
No, there's actually an app that they came up with. It's I forget the name of it, but I think it's something like I'm Getting Pulled Over is the name of the app. And that's all you say is I'm getting pulled over by the cops, and it automatically records the entire thing, and it's a format that the courts accept.
Mm-hmm.
That's I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, wow, they should have something like this. So you're saying they already made it?
Yeah, and I'm actually all for that also, specifically because it favors the officer and it favors the court, because a lot of these cops do actually follow the letter when they pull people over. You know, we get a lot of these bad calls and you get a lot of these bad stops, and they get blown up by a media that's hungry. One of the things you got to remember, and I tell this to everybody, devil's advocate on one of these things, you do not know what call that officer just came from before he's dealing with you. Now think about this. You don't know if right before he pulled you over, the last stop he was on, he came into a house where they had a basket full of puppies. There were 16 puppies and only 4 of them lived because of the malnourishment and the shit and the people beating the puppies with hammers or something of that nature, which, yes, that shit happens. You know, you have people doing evil shit like that around here. So you don't know what that cop came from. You don't know if he just came from a house where they had to take the kid to the hospital because the kid was sitting in its own feces for 2-3 days, and then he pulled you over, and you're in your nice car and your nice clothes, and you're copping an attitude, when he just came from like a house full of poor people where the kids are starving and they're eating a cat or something because mommy's a junkie and she ain't been home for 2-3 weeks, and the neighbor's cold because of the smell. See, you just don't know what the cop just came from. That's something that people always have to keep in the back of their head. What horror did that officer see throughout the course of the day? And I'll be the first one to tell you there has to be protocols put into place for when the cops deal with a certain thing, they got to get sent home for the day. Seriously, they cannot finish out their whole shift after seeing certain things. They're human, you know.
Mental health is huge, and you just hit on it right there, Scoob. It's like they're human beings. They're not robots, and like that goes both ways and stuff. It's like you have an officer where it's like you don't know. Literally, they may have gotten shot at, like literally an hour before this, depending on where your locale is. It's like you got getting shot at. It's like, God bless. Freaking, I've never been shot at. Burnside, you've been shot at. Or at least a firearm discharge in your general direction and stuff, because we were freaking all watching that. It's like, we are human beings. We are more similar than we are different, but we each have our own unique life experience and stuff. And what you're saying just right there, it's like that's immediately in your mind. If you're getting shot at and everything, it's like unless literally everything is going to shit. It's like if you got another officer, maybe you should go home for the day, or maybe grab a shake from Shake Shack or something like that. I don't know.
Shake Shack? I don't think so. Not after what happened to those poor cops.
No, dude. Apparently that was all. And again, talking about things that kind of got blown up. Again, we're looking for certain things. Apparently, what happened, and again, this is my opinion. No. What it sounds like is, dude, the shake machine you got to clean, and depending on when you clean it, you're supposed to cycle it through so much. If you didn't get every little thing, you tossed a little cleaner. They said their shakes tasted funny. They threw it out, and apparently a supervisor ended up getting a hold of that information, and then thought, "Oh my God, they're trying to poison my officers." So then he ends up making a thing about it. The media hops onto it and everything, and they're saying cops allegedly poisoned and stuff. And then it's like, no, it's like they're like, oh, this tastes kind of funny, and they toss it out. I mean, logic would say, okay, maybe maybe somebody was trying to poison them, or in my mind, as somebody that's gotten like shakes and frosties and stuff, which they are delicious, it's like if it tastes a little funny, maybe they just cleaned the machine and there was a little bit of residue from the cleaner or something.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I've had that before when I worked at McDonald's. When they get really low on the iced tea, you do not want to drink the bottom of that. You will throw up. So that has happened before, and that's the reason why it's important to have citizen journalism that's active, because they've repealed the Propaganda Act for several years now, and I don't believe they have any intention of putting that back in place. So the fake news can be as fake as it wants to be, and they can spin any narrative, without any legal repercussions, and that's why we have people thinking that there's little, SS genocide brigade in every freaking police department just gunning people down, and why everybody thinks every type of little protest that happens is going to wind up, turning into a Molotov cocktail party.
Well, and that's the thing. Just because it's like what ends up getting clicks and views and stuff like that, it's like horrific tragedy. It's like you're not seeing like all the other like protests, like the one that you went to, Burnside, like the one I went to, where overall, even if you don't agree with everything that people are saying there, if they're operating within the scope and course of the law and they're being peaceful, it's like that's how you actually affect change. Because it's like, all right, you're out there, you're being peaceful, you're kind of going all the more of the Gandhi mimetic, rather than it's like, all right, we're just trying to go around and cause destruction. Because when people are like, what the hell is going on? It's like, my city's being like burnt to the ground. What's happening? It's like, what did I do? It's like, I watched like some poor woman like on the news. It's just like they destroyed the dollar store. They destroyed all the stores like in her area and stuff. And like they didn't have public transit running at the time. It's like, where's she going to get food?
Yeah, I seen that black lady that was crying because she had no way to get anywhere. Yeah, well, that's the thing that I'm getting annoyed about. That's why I don't like this Black Lives Matter shit. Like, look, I'm sorry. I'm going to lay this all out on the line. And I said this to a few different people. Minneapolis needs to revamp their police department, has needed to revamp their police department, soup to nuts. I've been saying this for years. You got that problem over there. There's a lot of other police departments in this country that Black Lives Matter is pointing at justly because, and you got to realize that they keep saying it's racism. A lot of these cops that are doing it, I've noticed there's a lot of black cops that it's just the cops themselves. They're not getting the proper training, and it's a lot of these cops, they got an almost like thug mentality. And they're being really heavy-handed the way they're dealing with these people. They don't have the proper disciplinary classes put in place. Minneapolis is a very good example of that. This man had 17 priors on his record with internal affairs before the thing happened with George Floyd. May he rest in peace. Now, George Floyd, I've been hearing people say he ain't a saint. That don't mean you get to execute the man in the street. But my point being is this. Now, they said these two had a prior history. Now, that would have meant George Floyd, if he would have lived, he would have probably got that shit tossed in court because him and this cop had a prior history. That haven't been said.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the one thing almost nobody looks into. Yeah, they've got a lot of back history.
Yeah, and that's one of the things
that is how they could. Sorry to cut you off, Scoob, but that could be how they actually get him on that murder too. Because you look at it, it's like, all right, this individual's actions, is it beyond a reasonable doubt that it caused his death? I mean, you look at that. I'll be straight up. I haven't watched like the whole video because like I've seen people die before on camera, and just it's not good. I mean, I really should watch it just to take it all in, and just because it's like, if this happened, dude, it ain't fucking right, and we can do better than this.
Yeah.
We can do better than this. I think this is a multi-level thing, and to just go around and say we're just going to abolish. I mean, maybe. I mean, I see a lot more folks that happen to be buying firearms and stuff, and I've heard folks say it's like an armed society is a polite society. So I mean, there are some things here. While at the same time, you look at all the jobs that we've asked police to do, where it's like, okay, there happens to be a disturbance. Maybe there's somebody that happens to have like a mental issue or something like that. It's like we end up sending cops to so many jobs that they're not necessarily specialized in. That's why I'm like, okay, well, maybe if you have an emergency system, it's like, okay, maybe if you need like paramedics, you need something like this. Unless there's any type of violence happening, it's like, I don't know, maybe 911 or 999. It's like, all right, you do that. It's like, all right, you're getting emergency services there. If you just do a standard 911, okay, you get all three or whatever, because so very often, and if you're actually thinking about it from a resource allocation standpoint as well, it's like every time there's an emergency call, it's like there's a dispatching, like an ambulance, a fire truck, and a squad car there. Are all those things needed? Do we need to use all that fuel? Because what happens if you got the fire truck there, and then on the exact other end of town, there ends up having to be a gas leak that goes up or something? So like these are other things. Like, I realize it's an imperfect system. What I'm saying, it's like I thought we wrote something about having a more perfect union. I don't know, maybe just me.
That was the idea.
Yeah. Well, it keeps coming back to what I'm saying again. That's the reason I'm annoyed with Black Lives Matter is what they're doing, in my opinion, right now. They're not helping this situation. They're dragging shit out and they're making it worse, because what they're doing is they're getting these Democrats to pander to them and do all this insane shit. I mean, look, everything that they're doing can be undone the minute that they get voted out and Republicans come to power. And that's the reason that they're doing this, is because we all know the Republicans are going to try to start restoring tons of the shit that they've been removing and destroying.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what'll be probably one of the catalysts for the Civil War. Because they actually, now you have to understand, when I say they, I'm speaking about the Democratic establishment. They've actually been doing this for a while with the starting of the conditioning for these kids of telling them these statues are bad, these statues are evil, they represent all this evil stuff. I don't know. I was old-fashioned. I was a Boy Scout. I was raised, a statue is a marker on the map. When you go up to it, the reason the statue is there is an event happened there. And the statue usually commemorates the person who was involved with the event that happened at that location. It's for historical purposes. Now, my father was old-fashioned, and he used to say that the reason that they put those statues of the Confederacy down south was for two reasons. It was so that the people wouldn't forget, but also it was almost kind of like to shame them, like, you see what you had, and you destroyed it all because you couldn't change and you couldn't accept the fact that what you were doing was wrong. That's the way my father looked at it. And my father said, the problem was that the South refused to change because they believed that slavery was from the Bible and that it would be sinful for them to go against the hand of God. It had to be God's decision to make. Problem was, you had generals like Sherman who decided to punish the South. Now, this is the thing I tell people all the time. You didn't have the North-South problem in this country till after Sherman. Sherman is the one who caused the animosity by completely wiping his ass with Georgia. Now, you got to realize this, because what you think you have now, if we wind up having a civil war, it's going to pale in comparison to what comes after, because it's going to be a long time to heal. Look how long it took the North-South divide to heal. I forget where it was in North Carolina, I believe it was. They didn't celebrate the 4th of July for 75 years. It's a long time to hold a grudge.
The United Kingdom, I think, just finished paying off their last loan for reconstruction after World War II in 2015.
Damn.
War is
Germany,
hell.
not too long around the corner from that, just finished paying off their debt for the First World War. Oh God,
That's crazy.
that's sad.
And this is the thing. It's like, I mean, is it possible that you could try to burn so much of the establishment down and have it be good in a generation or two? I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, the chances of that happening are probably very, very slim. I mean, a giant 7-foot tall flaming gummy bear could crush me right now. It could happen. It probably won't happen. It's just, yes, it's a silly comparison.
You had to
It's
look
like, all
to
right,
make sure that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
well, like I said, anything
We
is
all held our
possible.
breath.
Dude, I am a horrific sinner, so if the Lord willed it, I mean, it's like I wouldn't put it past anybody. But no, I digress on this. But it's just, you look at what's happening. It's like, all right, the country is red hot, and I used to do a little bit of blacksmithing back in the day. What they teach you is when the metal is red hot, yeah, you could get to the point where it's literally sparkling and crackling, but then it kind of goes bad. It's like when you're in that sweet spot, man, you can mold it, you can shape it, we can do so many things. And one of the things that really bothers me about like some of my comrades on the left is just kind of like the tokenization, or some folks call it like the wokenization. It's like, all right, you're doing something now. Are you doing that because it's going to truly solve a problem, or it just kind of sounded like a good idea? And I'm a person like, I'll go out there and be like, oh, I like this, I like that, because it's like my initial response is, oh, I like that. But at the same time, you got to realize it's like, okay, now that might be nice. That might be, hey, a few kind words can go a long way. But in order to actually do better, you actually got to find out what are the driving factors here. That's why I was talking about, it's like, all right, if you happen to fit a particular description and you're disproportionately having very negative encounters with state empowered agents, it's like, that's going to weigh on you, especially if you hear other folks like within your community that are saying the same thing, and you're getting told, oh, you're playing this up, you're playing this up. I do think this explains a lot. So if we can actually take meaningful steps that make sense, will they be perfect right off the bat, or maybe even ever? Probably not. But again, we strive to do better, and I really think if we leverage technology now, we actually can do it, or at least start our path on down there.
Well, hopefully that's the idea. I mean, the idea is that with technology being as advanced as it is, with society being so modern, that we can actually try and move past such, ancient, dark age, archaic things and try and, actually get to that elevation, as so to speak.
Right, and dude, just look at what we're freaking doing right now, dude. I'm outside freaking in my car because my porn-ridden laptop decided to take a crap here. I'm freaking on here talking with a correspondent in New York, a correspondent over in Chicago over here, and I'm outside the greater Boston area here. We're having this conversation. We're talking about covering certain events and everything. And who are we? We're just three schmucks on the internet right now. It's like we're just showing that it can be done. And it's like, dude, I seriously believe in like 1,000 years, they're discovering the fifth state of matter. Frickin' Eric Weinstein's like, I've basically got the geometric unity theory, and I don't think I'm wrong. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, dude, in 1,000 years, we could be in a Star Trek. What do we need to do? We need to get over ourselves. Starts with each and every one of us.
That's exactly what I mean. I hate saying this, especially somebody with eyes that glow like mine, when I say about Black Lives Matter. The problem I have with them right now is, I hate saying it, a lot of the movement is, I don't want to say it's like narcissistic. What it is you've had Hollywood crafting this narrative for a while, and they've been embellishing, and they've been embellishing, and they've been embellishing to the point now where they sit there and they come at you with these things, and you got to understand, they sincerely believe what they're saying. That's the thing. This false narrative that they've been fed. Believe me, I sympathize. I do, but I mean, that's why I really feel I don't like talking to them. Again, because they see these eyes, so they immediately think that I'm just, I'm the lying, blue-eyed devil. But it's like, no, I'm telling you the truth. Like, when I tell you, it's not the epidemic you're making it out to be. I mean, it's not like the cops are just randomly grabbing black people off of the streets and beating the shit out of them. Not always. I'm sure there's one or two instances.
No. But dude, again, I understand
You
the
know?
angle you're coming from. I'm trying to understand your perspective, and from what I'm hearing, it's like there's a reason these things are happening. Okay, but at the
No,
same
not even
time,
that.
if you're
I'm
just
just saying
walking down the street, and then because the story I shared earlier basically just fit what you were saying.
right. No, I'm just saying, but like, it, how many numbers do we got here? That's what everyone's pointing out is the numbers don't correlate with what they're talking about. There is no epidemic. The last time there were even numbers near what they are talking about was Jim Crow. I mean, seriously, that we don't have this epidemic of police brutality. I mean, the cops have been under such a microscope for the past 20 years now. I mean, and it keeps escalating every few years. Every time something else happens, the scrutiny goes higher and higher and higher. I mean, bro, these cops, internal affairs is having a field day because anything these cops do wrong, they have to go and talk to IA now. They don't want to do anything because they get screwed with constantly. I can understand now why we have this blue flu going on, because now literally, I really hate saying this, I don't know what it is by you guys, but every one of these Black Lives Matter people I see are at the least upper middle class. They got money, they wear nice designer clothes, they got on all these nice, watches and jewelry and everything. And my point is that I'm saying this, these are yuppies I've been seeing, and I'm seeing these people, yeah, and they're sitting there screaming and yelling. I'm looking at them, and I'm like, do any of you even have a record? Have any of you ever even been stopped? I mean, look at where you are. There are more black people in this area. I think the only places that beat us out per capita are places like in parts of Alabama and Mississippi. But black people are pretty much the majority in certain parts of the state. And I'm sitting here listening to them talk. I'm like, I watch the same news as you. We don't have this epidemic you're talking about. A lot of these, like when they show anything with the cops, like with the NYPD, it's mostly, if not almost always, justified. Like I was telling Burnside, forgive me, I forget the man's name, because they had so many of these different ones they were pulling out of the woodwork, anything to discredit the police lately. The gentleman over in New York City, the one that they put him in a chokehold.
Eric Gardner.
That was his name. I wasn't sure. I was talking to one of those cops. This cop was maybe about, I want to say 5'6", and I might be being generous. A little guy with a bald head. And he told me, he's like, Scoob, he was bigger than you. You'd have to stretch your neck to look at the friggin' guy. Now, for anyone who doesn't know,
Eric Gardner was a very large gentleman.
Yeah, well, to give anyone an idea for perspective, the officer, when he told me this, I'm 6'2", and I think at the time I was a little bit heavier than I am now. I'm about 230 now. I'm not exactly a ballerina, So for him to say to me that this guy was at least 2-3 times my size, and I've seen the footage, just the man was big. And he had said to me, he's like, you get him down, and he's saying, I can't breathe. He's like, we weren't holding him anymore. He said he couldn't breathe because the man was having a heart attack. He said he was getting asphyxiated because he was obese. And it's one of those things.
Go on.
No, I was going to say, it's one of those things where, okay, yeah, you get upset because they're trying to get the man down, but it's one of those things I tell people all the time. When cops get you down on the ground, especially if there's cameras, that's it. You're down on the ground and you're immobilized. That's all they're trying to do. They're trying to get you down, so that's it. They don't have to deal with you flailing around anymore. It's the reason they get you down. People they think that it's to humiliate you. Look, the cops on a personal level don't give a fuck about you. What they want to do is make sure that you are safe on the ground, so the other officers on scene are safe. That's it. That's all their interest is right now. Okay, suspect, get them on the ground, get them detained, find out if this person is actually the perpetrator. If they're not, get them on their feet, dust them off, send them on their way. That's basically what they're teaching them. And the thing is, as Americans, it sounds to me really arrogant and ballsy when we get annoyed if we get roughed up by the cops. It happens sometimes. We don't know what the stipulations were of what the call, how the call got put through. You get grabbed by a cop and you get roughed up. I had heard a 911 call. The cop had let us hear it. The woman called the police on me, She thought I was like menacing the neighborhood. I'm just walking down the street. But because of my size and appearance, I intimidated her. And she cooked up some fantasy in her head. Luckily, the cops in the neighborhood knew me because at the time I was going for Eagle Scout. So they knew it wasn't me, and they knew that I was who she was describing, but I wasn't doing anything. She just called up and said there was some big, scary hoodlum menacing the neighborhood. I just happened to be walking down her block. So that happens.
Funny.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, but you know, it's funny, but that could be. I knew these cops, and I was from this area. If I didn't know these cops, and wasn't from this area, it could very much have turned out like one of those situations like Memes is talking about. Because again, you got to remember, I'm an ethnic. They read the name on the thing, they start looking at that. Oh, okay, who are you? Why are you here? That sort of thing. This, that, and the third. It can go that way very quickly. Now, see, the thing is, you're dealing with cops who are dealing with a lot of calls throughout the day and a lot of different cases throughout the course of the day. You don't know what they just came from. They might be short patient because whatever they just dealt with before they dealt with you now probably might be taxing on their nerves. So one of the things that's the onus on you, if you are innocent, keep your cool, keep your calm, and just relate to the cops over and over. It is not me. What do you need to prove it? How can I prove it to you? I will try to prove it right now. Well, okay, it happened at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, I was at the gas station. Here's my receipt. I tell everybody. I told this to Burnside. I get receipts everywhere I go. A receipt can save your ass from getting locked up.
Because if you can prove, I hear that. I hear that, Scoop. Yeah. But how many of our fellow Americans are actually aware of that?
Well, that all cycles back to what you're talking about with the civics classes. They stopped teaching civics when we were younger. You and I think, at the same age. They stopped teaching civics when we were younger. I don't know how it was in Massachusetts, but in New York, they stopped civics. I think my class was like the last class to learn civics. I think they changed it like the next year.
I remember going over some of that stuff, I think, in middle school, and if not middle school, at least high school. We did the basic things. It's like, all right, you cover the Constitution, you learn the amendments and everything, and it's like, all right, that's cool. And like, if we're not teaching even just that, that's a huge thing. And just a lot of these things where things come out, it's like, all right, we had a Supreme Court ruling or whatnot. It's like, all right, that's great. But then that leads me to the question of why do we still have these laws on the books? Like Mr. Gardner, it's like, you want to know why the police were there? Because he was slinging singles. He was selling cigarettes. Eric Gardner was the type of person that I was looking for when I was down in Florida and I ran out of butts. I'm like, can I buy a butt from you? Let me give you $1 or something. It's like, I did that shit, and all of a sudden, like, because I hadn't watched like the full altercation before, or at least the beginning. And his first thing is like, why are you guys always hassling me and everything? Because again, this goes back to kind of what I said. You fit the description and everything, and it's like, is he doing a violent crime? And again, I understand, but then when he was just kind of like pushing away, he is a large dude. He can be a very intimidating dude. But then you're like seeing photos. It's like you're looking at the dude. It's like a giant teddy bear. But at the time, the cops, they're training. You're trying to strike an officer. So you got all these guys jumping on top of him. And it's like, dude, as far as I understand, I don't think I've ever had a heart attack or anything. But I could imagine that if you're having a heart attack, it probably feels like you can't breathe. They taught us in wrestling. It's like, if somebody's talking, they can still breathe. And then as they demonstrate, as you wrap your arm around Lord, you literally start sputtering. Yeah, I've had shit like that happen. But at the same time, it's like, your mind isn't thinking, is my airway pinched? All of a sudden, you just feel a pain in your chest and everything. You're like, I can't breathe. It's like, I don't know. Would it not be reasonable to expect this dude is having a medical emergency?
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying, but again, and you're going to hate me for saying this, and I've said the same thing to Burnside, I've said the same thing to Terra, I tell everybody this. And when you look at the Statue of Justice, what's the first thing you notice about her?
It's blind.
Yep.
That's the thing. No. I hear what you're saying, but again, if we have multiple factors, if we're not teaching civics, if our fellow Americans don't know their rights, and we have an extremely aggressive police training style where we're not necessarily focused on, like Burnside was saying, de-escalation. because if the cop can start to de-escalate and you happen to know your rights, all of a sudden you're taking something that might be up here tense, you're slowly going it down. You know what? Maybe you just get a warning, maybe you even still get a ticket. But as long as both individuals are walking away and they have their lives, that sounds like a better outcome rather than you start here, you start leveling up here with just hatred, and then it ends up where somebody
Mhm.
loses their life. Because in some of these situations too, it's like cops lose their lives.
Let me ask you something. What do you do when you're pulled over?
I try to keep my hands on the wheel and stuff like that. I also grew up with a dad as an attorney and friends that were going through they were like housing cops and stuff like that. I also had a situation where we were doing stupid stuff and I got injured on a Razor scooter going like 40 miles per hour because I was a dumbass. And I'm sitting there bleeding out in the back of my friend's car. We're pulling back into his parents' driveway. The cop pulls in, puts the lights on. My buddy, who is the driver, he actually pops out of the car. He's probably like 5'8", maybe 135, 140 pounds at the time, wearing full Abercrombie. The cop's like, "Oh, were you guys around so-and-so?" And about 5 seconds later, my 360-pound Greek buddy pops out of the other door wearing his full Harley leathers, the Harley Davidson jacket. The cop's hand immediately goes, "Get back in the car! Get back in the fucking car!" I'm just in the back there bleeding. I'm like, "Can I get some medical attention?" Eventually, we kind of get off there. I go inside, and his aunt happened to be there, and she happened to be a nurse, so she just hydrogen peroxide me up. It kind of stung a bit, but I was fine.
Not bad.
I'll tell you how I was taught and what I do really quick. Sorry, Bernstein, I didn't mean to cut you off. What I was taught, and I do this every time I get pulled over, and my nephews, I told them this is what you do, and I've had them do this when they're in the car with me. The minute you get pulled over, first thing you do, you go into your pocket, you take out your wallet, you put your wallet on the dashboard, you put both your hands on the dash, make sure it's far enough from the wallet so they can see the wallet and they can see your hands. You face forward until the cop comes. That's what you do. Passenger has to do the same thing. Cop comes, usually it's at night, they're going to shine the light through the car. They're going to ask you for your license. Yeah, he's probably going to hop back in. Still, you put the wallets on the dash, you and the passenger, and cop comes up, asks you for your ID. That's when you reach for the wallet. You make sure that the wallet's on the dashboard. That way you have access to the ID and you can give it directly to him.
I hit the wrong thing.
I figured that. Did you hear anything of what I said?
Dude, I'm at the point now where it's like, just based upon what I know in all these stories and stuff, it's like I get pulled over, my hands are at like 10 and 2. I'm not, because I used to go in and like grab like my registration and stuff like that. I'm at the point now where it's like, I don't want any reason for that officer to have to like go for his gun. And like, you think about that, it's like, not everybody has ill will. The sad thing is, there are some folks that they might reach in there and they may grab a gun, and I can understand why the police are trained that way. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, dude, we got our fellow Americans dying and shit like that. It's like, are there not reasonable things that we can do that maybe fall in somewhere between abolish the police and, I don't know, give them tanks?
Well, here's what I'm getting at. I grew up as a teenager when Dinkins was the mayor. That's when New York City hit rock bottom. It was bad. Just when you thought nothing could get worse than the 80s, surprise, the 90s showed up. So what you do is when you get pulled over, you take your wallet out of your pocket. If you got a passenger, you tell the passenger, grab me the paperwork out the glove. You put the paperwork in the wallet up on the dashboard. You and the passenger, you both put your hands on the dash. Cop comes. That's when you hand them the stuff out the wallet, and that's when you hand them the paperwork out of the glove compartment. But make sure you get it out before they come, because if you wait till the cop comes to the car and then you reach for your wallet, that's when you have a cop with his hand on his gun, and now he's got the flashlight directly in your eyes.
Or you get shot.
You only get shot if you start saying, "Get that fucking light out of my eye." Now the gun is in your face along with the light, because now you're belligerent. That's how fast it escalates, and the escalation is on you because you were not prepared when you first got pulled over. This is one of the things that the DMV should teach you, which they don't, is how to properly handle a police stop. That should actually be rule number one for you to get a license.
Great idea.
Yeah.
For
Rule number one for you to get a license, you should be able to handle a police stop. That actually should be part of the driver's ed thing. You should have to go through a police stop.
The sheer fact that we're even having to have this discussion, I don't know. This kind of sounds like a major flaw in the system. I'll be straight up. They never taught me that.
Yeah, that's my whole point. Well, this is the thing. I lucked out. My father drove a truck for the union. I lucked out because my father drove a truck for the union, and his godson, my cousin, was NYPD. So I was able to actually sit there and learn all this shit. Plus, my brother was a friggin' felon. So I learned from all of the angles. That's the thing. I got to learn from the police. I got to learn from a driver for the union. I got to learn from somebody inside. Now, this is the thing. My brother only did time, though, for the violent offenses. My sister's husband, my brother-in-law. Now, you got to remember, I got 5 sisters. One of them, though. Her husband, he did a lot of time for petty shit. He was a bit of a, a fuck up and a shitheel. He's the one that I learned a lot of good shit from. Between him and my brother, I learned, the tricks like, okay, make sure you have all the paperwork ready. Make sure you have all of your paperwork in a special envelope that you could buy in any auto parts store. If you don't have the one that came with the car or the one from the DMV, you put all the paperwork for the car in that envelope. Have it on hand. I hate saying this. I feel a lot of times when I tell the people on the internet, like when I talk to the audience about this, it's the same conversations I'm having with my nephews. And that's what makes me sad, because my nephews were shitheads. Like, I should not have to sit here and tell the American populace, a lot of people all over the world who see this, but I'm saying I'm addressing the American populace in general. And it frightens me as a 41-year-old man that I have all of this knowledge that these kids lack. I'm not Gandalf the fucking Grey. It's not like I have, under this hat, there's not like, a fount of knowledge. As you can see, it's just a mop. I mean...
Yeah, it's like you're Gandalf, I'm Aragorn, and Memes is Gimli.
No, don't get lost on this one. I'm
yes!
the point, though. No, actually, Memes is more like Mufasa from The Lion King when he had that mane on his fucking face. Bro, every time you came in here with the yellow shirt on and that friggin' orange beard, I was waiting for the Circle of Life to start playing. But I'm saying...
Is it bad when they started that movie off at the beginning where they're like, I'm like, I always thought they were saying Martha's Vineyard. I'm like, wait, they're from Massachusetts?
God.
I thought they were near like the African Savannah or something. I don't know. Where do lions come from?
Oh, that's funny.
God bless you.
We did have one point from Darkstar. He was saying that the one thing you're missing is that a good portion of the reason
I didn't miss it at all.
these problems is it's part of the Soviet plan.
Oh no, I didn't miss it at all. I'm not. That's the point I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the people organizing this. I'm talking about the people participating. They got no clue what they're doing there. They really do believe that it's kind of like Jim Crow. Now, that's the thing that scares me is, again, these are yuppies I'm talking to, and it's like, Jesus, you don't know anything? Like, have you ever seen that TV show Black?
No.
With Anthony Anderson, and it's him and his wife, and Lawrence Fishburne is the father. It's very Democrat, so I don't like the politics, because I'm sorry, those people on the left, they tend to be mean, and their outlook is kind of cold-hearted. So I don't usually like their shows. But the concept of the show itself, which is the upper middle class black family, that's like supposed to be a comedy in and of itself. I don't know. I'm not a leftist. But those people, that is people like on that show and in that neighborhood, are the people that you're going to see protesting in certain parts of Long Island. I had actually said something to this one girl, because she put up this video and she's going on about the struggle and her neighborhood, and I pulled a card. I told her, I said, "You're talking about wine dance?" I'm like, look, honey, the village is poor as shit. But once you go into wine dance and you go up into the neighborhood proper, like over by Dix Hills, wine dance is known where it's one of the only black neighborhoods, I'm pretty sure in the Northeast, where most of the houses have the circular driveways with fountains in the middle of the driveway. You know what I'm saying? Like the terraced fountains, like a miniature Vatican one. It's a very well-to-do neighborhood. Spanish tile roofs. They got the marble shutters. It's a very nice neighborhood. Now, this is the thing.
Not just relation to the folks that are in the area. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh no, I'm just saying this is it's a black neighborhood, but they have money. But this is the thing. down in the village, because it's an incorporated village, they have a Section 8 neighborhood. So you have a rich and a black neighborhood that there's actually a mixing point where you go from shitty ramshackle houses to boom, you got a house that's worth, if it's in a white neighborhood, this is like a $700,000 house easily around by me. Just to give you guys an idea, the house I live in is worth about like $500,000. That's just because of how close I am in proximity to New York City. That's what causes the value. So you have people, to give you an idea, some of these houses that they're in, when I say they're like $600,000-$700,000 houses, I'm talking these are nice, big, beautiful houses where the whole front is like a stone facade. It's got the Spanish style roofs. It's got like the built-in stone garage. It's got the circular driveway. It's got the nice wall built into the front of the house with the sidewalk. It's really nice. It's a choice house. And that was the thing, like, in the village, yeah, you're going to see the cops pulling people over and stopping people and shit, but those are like the crackheads. It's really weird. It's like when you get past the incorporated village into the township of Wyandanch, like, it's a completely different. It's just very strange like that. And I was pointing that out to this girl. I'm like, you're talking about a small area of the neighborhood. Wyandanch proper, I said, when you get towards Dix Hills, once it turns into Dix Hills, that's where Nicki Minaj lives. That's where LL Cool J lives. You got so many different New York City rappers. Puff Daddy has a house over there. He's got his big house out in the Hamptons, but I guess this is like, I don't know, his in-between house. Like, okay, I don't feel like driving all the way out to the Hamptons. Yeah, it's like, it's like a crash pad, I guess. He doesn't want to make it all the way out to the Hamptons because the Hamptons is a pain in the ass and a hike to get out to. So, like, I would understand, it's just, to me, when I'm talking to a lot of these folks, it's almost like it's the whole solidarity of skin color thing. And look, I don't like identity politics just because of the simple fact. I was talking to a group of people earlier. The United States is really big. Like, if you actually laid a map of Europe over the United States, we actually swallow Europe up. I'm just pointing out a fact that you can't really do that solidarity of skin color thing in the 21st century across the United States because all of our experiences are different. Don't matter if we all look similar. And
that's the one funny thing. Speaking of that a chunk of the signs that some of the people were holding when they were doing the BLM march through Hegewisch is a good chunk of them were holding signs that said brown and black solidarity or brown and black unity and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's all communist shit.
A good portion of them were actually black. Like one of the few black guys was the cowboy of France.
Yeah, but you have to realize, like, a lot of this, what the commies are doing with the whole thing with like pushing for Black Lives Matter and the brown solidarity. The reason communists, the reason that Jewish people got a bad rap as being communists in the 21st century is because that's who the communists went after. Because that's who they went after over the shared experience. They went after Jews for the Jewish experience, just like they're going after black people for the black experience. That's how they get you.
That's why they had the holometer.
That's what they do. Yeah, that's the opiate that they bring in. And like they've taught these kids such hyperbolic shit. Like, I think I told you when I was the kids were arguing with me about the Holocaust. And the reason that they were arguing with me is all I had said to them when they're talking to me about the number 6 million, and they said 6 million people died in gas chambers. I said they didn't all die in gas chambers. There was a lot of different causes of death. And the kids started screaming at me that I'm a Holocaust denier. I'm like, what happened? Okay, how big of a population did you think that there was? I said, what about, the Poles and the Gypsies? I said, you're not understanding me. I said, they didn't have facilities to just gas 6 million people. I said, there was a lot of different ways people died in the Holocaust. I said, they're like, well, you're denying it. I said, no, you're not listening to me. They couldn't.
Aren't you just arguing semantics and the sheer fact that you're arguing? Well, they didn't die from like Zyklon B. They died in this manner and stuff. It's like, I realize maybe you're talking about technicality, but like if somebody's talking about something that's very important to them, it's like what they're hearing, even if it's not what you're saying, is you're denying that 6 million Jews lost their lives. I understand that might not be what you're saying, but it's just one of those things where it's like, do you have to say that, or like, are you debating like specific history points, or is it just because like if you end up going to that conversation, it's like I feel I'll be straight up, like I got into a little Facebook tiff the other day because you want to know why? I was treating it like Twitter. Somebody, apparently I was unaware that there was more Joe Rogan controversy, so somebody said something like, Joe Rogan is a dipshit, you'll never change my mind. So as I'm scrolling through, I'm just like, oh, I like Joe, and I just kind of pass it off, and then it's like, oh, I'm getting all these comments and everything. What have I done and everything? And you know what? No, it's like, oh, I didn't mean to offend anyone. My apologies if that was the case. And it's like I actually started to have private conversations and stuff, and I learned things. And I learned
Yeah.
things from different things. And it's like, you know what? Even if I could say it's like, well, this was in relation to this, I paused because that was my initial thing that I was going to do. And again, this is just my opinion. This is just kind of my
Mhm.
perspective on things. I'm like, you know what? Let me take this outside of the public comments thing. See if somebody's at least willing to have a conversation behind the scenes. Have a conversation, and then I end up getting a book recommendation out of all of it. It's like, okay, what is my goal? It's like, am I just trying to like prove this person wrong? It's like, okay, even if you can do it, should you do it? At the same time, it's kind of like, what is it, Professor Peterson used to say, like, well, being meek, like, we have a very negative connotation to it these days, whereas back in the day, what it meant is you have the power and ability to strike somebody down, however, you keep your sword sheathed unless it's necessary. So I
Yeah.
think we're arguing over what's necessary. And are there some folks that are taking the shield of social justice, which is meant to like protect those who are or historically have been oppressed, and reforging into a sword to simply smite those they disagree with? Unfortunately, I believe that is happening, and that's
Yeah.
a problem.
Oh yeah.
Well, social justice in itself is flawed on its face. I mean,
I
let's
disagree with that, but go on.
no. But bear with me. Bear with me. Just please. If you really are into equality, one of the first steps that is the problem with social justice is it's automatically terracing people up and it's tribalizing them, it's breaking them up into segments and whatnot. What we need to do is we need to concentrate on the laws and we need to concentrate to make sure that everything is done equally. We just had a really bad step backwards. Now, I identify as a progressive liberal. I always have said that. I tell people specifically progressive liberal slash conservative realist. And the reason I tell people this is you have to approach politics like with a Taoist mentality, yin and yang. You have to have balance. You can't be too much of one thing, or you wind up prepping and having 1,000 guns and friggin' face paint for camouflage and shit all like lined up around you. Or if you go the other way, you're running through the streets with blue hair, tearing down statues and screaming about black people when you're as white as the driven snow. So you need to have balance. You can't be too much left and you can't be too much right. That's the reason I'm a centrist. And that having been said, we need to focus on the laws. We had a big step back when they just did in California. They're reversing affirmative action when they took it away in 96. I got a problem with affirmative action because to me, you should not have to be tested to see whether or not you're smarter than a white person. That just bothers me on a fucking level, man. I'm sorry. I don't buy that shit. Do blind testing, test people on their knowledge, and basically you don't even have to use their name. Use their social security number. That way, okay, they don't have a social security number, they can't get the job. There you go. You don't even have to sit there and scream about all the illegals. They can't get the job. So you don't have to sit there and talk about them taking the jobs. You can't talk discrimination. No one knows what color they are. You can't talk sexism. They don't even know what sex the person is until after everything has been tallied up and they come in for the primary interview.
So
That's how you got to
there's a
do it.
lot there's a lot to unpack right there. But Scoob, as a former blue-haired person, how dare you? It left the manic panic left it left things in my scalp and everything. It washed out, and my hair was teal at one point. But that's another issue in and unto itself. There. Um, as far as the other stuff that goes there, I believe in California, because I actually did a video on this. Because, and again, have I read all this stuff? No, but I remember Tim Pool reading from the legislation where it's like, we are removing this for public employees. I'm like, okay. And then I take a step back because it seemed to be being pitched as affirmative action. If you actually took what he read, it says that the state shall not have the ability to discriminate against people for public jobs, essentially. Basically, if the state is paying. So as far as I understand that, if you're public works, if you're a teacher, if you're a police officer. But then I'm like, okay, if this is being pitched for affirmative action, is Tim Pool actually getting this wrong on the technicality of, I thought the way that affirmative action worked was all things being equal between two candidates, you end up erring on one that happened to be of a particular protected class. I thought that was what was going to work, because if you remove that, then they could actually implement affirmative action. Now, could that end up leading to a whole bunch of other things down the road? Yes, it could. But I think that's the technicality, because again, I ain't an attorney or anything, but I think that's at least the pitch.
What it is, in 96, they removed protective classes. Now they're looking to put them back.
I thought it was the reverse.
No, it's the way it was worded, because I watched that Tim Pool video too. I stopped the thing, paused it, and I read the wording, and they literally said you have to basically, instead of voting they reversed it. So you have to literally go back and read the wording of it. But the way they did it is to trick everybody into voting yes, that they want you to put affirmative action back in, or vote no, you don't agree with affirmative action and you want it wrong. And it's not you're voting yes on the proposition or no on the proposition. You're voting yes on whether or not you think. They basically did it. It's a trick the way that it's worded. I read the thing. I'm like, these motherfuckers. If you go in there and you like smoke the joint in the parking lot, you're going to accidentally vote for affirmative action. That's literally
wait. Now, is there a separate referendum as well? Because this was voted on by the California State House, and then it was going to the Senate, as far as I remember.
I'm not sure. I only know what little bit I seen in Tim Pool's video. I'll be completely honest. I've been in full freak out mode since yesterday with the when I found out. I thought at first that they confirmed DC as a state. I didn't realize it was just that the House approved it to go forward. That scared the shit out of me when I saw that.
Well, no, dude. Just take that experience. Just that one experience right now. You come across a headline, and then when you actually delve deep into it, it's like it sounds like they're saying one thing, but then if you actually go down there, you're like, okay, did they actually say this? And then you got to do all the research to find it out. And that's why I'm like, this whole news thing. It's like, okay, where the hell do you go to actually find what's going on? So it's like, I think we could streamline this. It's just the incentives that are in place right now are for things like that shocking headline. Like, I was not expecting that. And it's just like we're playing on people's emotions and just trying to gather as much attention. So I guess we can sling as many ads and everything. Again, there's nothing wrong with making an honest living. It's just, I don't know. I think we can be more honest than that. But it's actually getting quite late over here. It's past my bedtime. So
yeah, same.
Sorry,
likewise. No, I was gonna have to hop out
a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to hop out in a few myself.
Yeah, but I'm gonna pop out here. But it's great chatting with you, gentlemen. Yeah, Burnside, just get the stuff over, and we'll put that footage up and everything. And if you could, we kind of already did it right here. I could try to write something up for you, but if you could just do the little form, it's like who, what, when, where, why, how, if you care to.
Yeah,
just so I can have a little thing there.
Just send me the paperwork for NewsQuest. I'll fill it out. I've got to get the NewsQuest email set up so that I can get the Google Drive.
Right.
But yeah, I'll go review the footage and get it to you, especially the footage of the Kevlar Cowboy.
I mean that is beautiful. I mean, I think I'll just do a video on that. Just express my opinion, be like, "This is freaking awesome, dude!" And it's like he's atop a horse named France. So,
yep,
but hey,
horse named France.
It's awesome. But hey, peace out, guys. Be safe. Log with the elbow bump.
Will do. Yeah, at some point they're planning on doing a second one. I don't know when it is, but I got an email from one of them, so I got to make sure I wrote down the correct email, and then I got to get in contact with them.
No, who is this now?
The BLM guys that were protesting. Like, I actually got an email from one of them, so because I was asking, okay, when's the next one? And they're like, oh, well, it's up for review. We're gonna see whenever we do the next one. But hey, you mind sending us the footage? I was like, yeah, sure. Give me an email.
I love how we're actually being polite to the terrorists. It amazes me.
Yeah, well,
No,
you
that's
know,
that's
that's
fine. You know,
yeah.
like
I'm being polite to him for the time being because the whole town was actually worried that it was going to go south, and it actually didn't. And the one guy I was telling you about from the task force, he was actually like running a lot of the work for these guys. So I was like, all right, so Sam's going to make sure they don't do anything illegal. Okay, I don't like a lot of the crap they're doing, but hey, if they're not doing anything illegal, then I can just do my regular stuff I'm supposed to do for a CFAPA. Be all impartial and all that bullshit.
well, I don't know, man. I tried being polite to him. I tried doing the nice thing. I tried doing the olive branch shit, and it's just like. Then I seen them going like every day. I would go up there to try to be polite, and then I'd see something else happen. They tore down another
Oh,
statue. Now, get this: they're forcing them to rename John Wayne Airport out in California.
what
Yeah,
the hell did John Wayne do to anyone?
he's an American symbol. He's an icon. He represents a time and an era, and they don't want that. You see, you got to realize something. They've been working so hard to switch our society and change everything. It started in the 90s. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, what we're going to have to realize going forward is I hear these people talking about this boogaloo shit. Yeah, I don't know nothing about no boogaloo. I don't know about whatever anyone's talking about. All I know is what's going to happen around here, and what's going to happen is they're going to keep pushing with this shit, with this Black Lives Matter,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. The way New York is set up, you've got a lot of the black people who were doing this got money, and
Oh,
you got a lot of people in the neighborhoods that they're doing this in. Like they've been going to these neighborhoods, they don't understand. I guess nobody told them which neighborhoods they should go to. They've been going to the working class neighborhoods. You shouldn't do
well, yeah,
that.
yeah. They did the same thing here in Hegewisch, which is why everyone was startled by it, and it's like I was sitting there and I was like, the rest of the neighbors aren't going to. They're probably going to do some form of counter protest or some type of retaliation. And that it's
Yeah,
bad because yeah, it's I like the reason why I'm being nice to these guys is because they aren't doing anything illegal. They actually behave them damn selves. And when I actually ran into somebody that I know, and was like, you're making sure everything's going okay here. And I was like, yeah, I've got a handle on it. And it's like, all right. So it's like, I'm watching him, he's watching me. And then if, they start getting into they just drop everything and start pulling out the hammers and sickles, they'll go, all right, how do we destroy everything? And it's like, you ain't destroying nothing. No.
I was tempted because they had the person the other day that was doing the Black Lives Matter. They had CBS 2 News. They were up over at the local town hall and they were interviewing them. I was tempted to go over there
Mm-hmm.
and hang out with them so that they would come ask me and put me on the news why I'm here. What am I protesting for? Because I was going to flat out say to them, I'm here for flea medicine for the Easter Bunny. Because if they said to me, what are you talking about? This is a serious protest. I'm going to say, well, they're here because of the epidemic of genocide that the police are perpetrating against black people. So since
Mm-hmm.
they're here for their fantasy shit, I'm here for mine. I want flea medicine for the Easter Bunny. There you go. My
That's
wife
funny.
told me, she said, if you do that, I'm not bailing you out. So I didn't go.
That's
Yeah.
hysterical.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. And what is with Dark Star? Has he been out in the fucking wilderness for like the past 2-3 years? Doesn't he realize that the whole thing that you and I do, our whole shtick is usually if we do a 2-3 hour stream, you could compile about 15 minutes of that, and it's going to be us ranting about communists. Of
Probably.
course, I mean, of course, these
He
people
was
are fucking commies.
the Slavic military guy that we were talking to before. He's just all about hating communism because his family and them had to survive that shit.
Yeah, well, no
And
shit.
like,
Everybody hates communists. I mean,
oh hell yeah.
For God's sake, I mean, I think was it the Ramones? I should know. I mean, they were from around here, but I'm pretty sure they had the song "Kill a Commie for Mommy." That was one of
Nice.
my favorites when I was younger. I mean, that was a very big thing when I was Look, I'm a kid from the Cold War. I grew up, where Reagan was like the messiah in my house. Like that's part of I was telling Tara once. I said, she's like, oh, you worship Trump as a god. I said, no, that's your pudding. I said, and with me, that would be Reagan, not Trump. I said, I love, the president. Don't get me wrong. I think he's the man, and I'm so glad that we got him. He entertains the shit out of me because every time he does anything normal, the left goes berserk, and then he goes on Twitter and he just is like, oh, look, there's a fire. Let me throw gas. And basically why I enjoy the man, but he doesn't have the same spot in my heart that Reagan does. And that's what I tell people. And that's one of the things you got to realize. Like, this is one of the things I'll always say. I have no problem with freedom of speech. But if there was anyone probably right off the bat, I probably want to say something to him. I'm not going to threaten the man. I'm not going to sit here and say, like a tough guy, I'm going to smack the shit out of him or nothing like that. But one of those things I probably want to confront the man would probably be Killer Mike, because he dropped that track about Reagan. Only time I'd ever confront somebody. Other than that, like, I mean, you can say whatever you want about, like, a public figure. You don't like Nancy Pelosi, you can say what you want about her. You don't like Trump, you can say what you want about him. To a degree on both of them, though. If someone was sitting here spreading, like, straight-up lies about Nancy Pelosi, I'd be like, nah, don't make up shit. She does enough horrible shit. You don't need to make shit up.
You don't need to lie about Nancy Pelosi or Donald Trump. They both do plenty of crap on the internet.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The things that they lie about with Trump piss me off because they try to paint him like a villain. And that's one of the things I always point out to people. If you don't like the man, just point out his flaws and it'll back up your case. Don't make shit up or blow things out of proportion, because what we're at now is, you see, the problem is Trump is a person who has flaws just like you, just like me, just like anybody. The problem is it's kind of hard to tell what those flaws are because they're manufacturing so much shit that you become hyper defensive of the man just because there's so much false shit coming out. And this is one of those things I'm really annoyed because I'd like to know about my president's feet of clay. And all they've done is muddied the waters. I don't know what his real faults or flaws are other than what people tell me. And most of what they tell me, to my ears, sounds like, well, he's a loudmouth from New York. Oh, so he's like me, but he has a lot of zeros after, his bank account. Got it.
That's like what I've gotten from the few people at work that complain about my MAGA hat that I wear. And they literally go, oh, well, what do you think about, Trump being a racist piece of shit? And I just go, he's an asshole from Queens. You act like you've never heard, coarse language before. Come on, what are you, yuppie from the suburbs? And they all start walking away at that point. And then my one coworker who I'm talking to all the time, he starts laughing. He's like, yeah, you did again, didn't you? And he's darker than the fucking Iron Cross on fucking Weimar flag.
Well, you know what it is? I hate saying this. I don't want to call all of these people stupid. I think a lot of them have psychological problems. And I don't want to say that they're crazy. I'm talking like, you have sometimes, like, if a person is anorexic, that's a psychological problem, but they're not crazy. A lot of these Black Lives Matter people, it's almost, I hate saying this, it's a form of like identitarian, I don't know, like anorexia or bulimia. I'm not saying, that they got to color themselves thin. That's not what I mean. I mean, just like how anorexia and bulimia are in your head, this identitarian shit going through their heads. Like, cops are only there to kill a black man, to hurt a black man, to do this. Okay, how old are you? Oh, you're 36? 36 years old. Where are you from? Oh, okay, so you're from Detroit. Okay, and that's all you've ever seen your entire life. And, the guy's like, yeah, that's all I've ever seen. So every time you leave the house, the cops just pull up and drag you into the car and beat the shit out of you. You know what I'm saying? You're building it up to such an unbelievable level. And, like, people are like, well, you don't want to refute them. Bullshit. Refute them all day. Like, when I hear these people talking about, kneeling for the anthem is not about the flag, and I agree with them. No, it has nothing to do with the flag. It has to do with you being opportunistic. It has to do with you being cheap, and it has to do with you being ballsy and nervy enough to force your ideas down our throats, because it has nothing to do with the flag, because you don't even give a shit about the flag. What it has to do with is your message. And this is why I don't respect them. They got money. Let them go buy a commercial slot. Why do they have to do it for the flag? You know what that is to me? That to me is to the cowardly piece of shit. He came home from jail. Everyone in the neighborhood dislikes him. They beat the shit out of this guy whenever he goes out to the bar. So what does this guy do? He's abusive to his elderly mother. He takes her money. He takes advantage of her because she'll let him. And to me, that's what these fucking animals are doing when they kneel during the anthem, because they know they can get away with it during the anthem and during the flag because of what type of people we are in this country. We're good people at heart, Americans. Most of us. We got some sick assholes, but I've told you before, my solution, for dealing with these fucking people, these sick fucking lunatics who do shit to people, you take them up on top of a roof of a decent sized building, you set up a trampoline downstairs, you feed them LSD, and you throw them off the fucking roof. They hallucinate, it scares the shit out of them, and when you catch them, you give them some orange juice and you tell them, okay, you don't do that again, and we're going to do this to you again. They don't want to go to jail. There you go. There's a solution to your prison problem. So, like, no, we don't want people to go to jail anymore. Okay, we're going to feed them LSD, and we're going to fling them off a 20-story building onto a trampoline. There you go. We either do that to you or you do 2 years. We'll wait till you peak, too. We'll sit there, we'll flash some friggin' lights at you, get you all sorts of trippy, and then fucking whoop, right off the roof you go.
Not gonna lie, that almost sounds like an impromptu amusement park.
Honestly, though, I think if that was a threat, bro, if I sat there and I got told, okay, you burglarized the house, now here's the deal. You're either going to do 2 years, or we're going to feed you enough LSD to put a horse into a coma, and then we're going to huck you off of a roof a few times onto a trampoline. I'm going to look at him like, you know what, maybe I'll risk it inside for the 2 years. Seriously. But I'm just saying, like, I'm throwing this out as just an idea. People talk about solutions for the prison system, and my thing is this: come up with something better. I gave you my solution. Well, Scoob, that's a really radical idea. Well, what you're talking about is radical. If I'm sitting here answering your radical ideas with something that sounds inane to you, the shit you guys are talking about sounds as inane to me. We're going to get rid of the police.
Yeah,
and we're going to get rid of police.
Crazy idea.
Yeah. Look, I'm sorry. New York has castle doctrine. I'm a firm believer in that. You cross the fucking threshold, you're getting a skylight in the back of your head. That's just the way it works. I'm a firm believer in that. I don't do the sanctity of life shit. I've said this.
I wish we had castle doctrine over here, man. You gotta wait till they're like on your property, getting in your house to be able to go and put a bullet in them.
Well, the same thing. You got to wait till they're on your property, coming into your house to put a bullet with them. Yeah, but that's basically the property is your lawn. Once literally you step foot off of the street onto my lawn, and you got hostile intent, you're getting dropped. I just gotta hope you fall forward and not backward into the street. That's the only thing. I just gotta make sure you die on my lawn too. Like there's like when I was a kid, one of the things that I got taught this by a retired cop. If anyone ever comes into your house, you put two into their head, you go and you take your wife's nightgown that she's wearing, you rip the collar of it, and you smack her in the face so that she gets a bloody lip. Yeah, Your Honor, this guy came in and he tried to rape my wife, so I had to put two in his skull. That's all. It's exactly what I got told by a cop. Just rip your wife's nightgown, make sure you bloody her lip, make sure they get a picture of it, and that's it. Put two in his head, we'll drag him out. We'll even drag him outside to wait for the meat wagon. It's like, we're not going to leave him there. Now, you got to remember, well, this was a different time. Now, this is the thing. I guarantee any of these young people who hear me saying that are going to start screaming and yelling and screaming. The cop never mentioned anyone's color. Cop never mentioned race. For all the cop could have been talking about, he could have meant a fucking rabbi came through the window. And for all he knew, I could have been talking about a circus clown. You see, that's the thing that these kids have to understand. They immediately like to project. Like one of the things you got to realize, like, is when I first meet people for the first time and I'm talking to them or whatever, they immediately, when they meet me, like first they hear me, and then when they finally meet me, it's always they had a different idea of who they were talking to than who they were going to meet. And that's because you get a picture in your head. How often have you gone to go meet a girl on like a blind date? You talked to her on the phone, everything was awesome, You get there and it goes either one or two ways. She's either Quasimodo or she's way out of your league. But it was never what you had in your head. And that's the thing. We have this idea that we have in our head that we build up about certain things, and we do it with everybody. And if you're somebody who is convinced that there's racism in America, you're going to find racism everywhere. And that's the problem with these kids. Because these kids are finding racism they're finding racism everywhere because they're looking for it.
Yeah.
You look hard enough for something, you're going to find it, even if it's there or not.
Yeah, that's the main thing is, these people are so set on it. It's like they're creating a type of their, like what Dark Star was talking about earlier, make a problem where there isn't one so you can make a wedge.
Yeah.
The one thing that concerned me when they were doing the march today is like, they mentioned on several occasions, we are here to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there and I was just thinking to myself, not a smart idea. The one thing you don't do is you don't tell the old Polacks in the neighborhood that they're there to make them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because then they start having flashbacks of the holometer and they go, time to kill them again.
Yeah.
A terrible Polish accent of mine, but that's when that starts happening. And then pretty much when all the old Polish people are like, yep, it's the Red Army again. And everyone else goes, oh, all right, well, the old folks are saying it must be so. And then just next oh boy, there goes your boogaloo these kids wind up talking about and all that crap.
Well, you seen what happened in my neighborhood with Black Lives Matter. Somebody ran them over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to fly here. You have to realize, especially like in Copeg, like it's funny. I kind of feel bad because Copeg has a very big black community and it has a very big Spanish community, but they're both outnumbered by the Polish. The Polish moved to Copeg by the fucking thousands. The minute the wall dropped, Copeg went from all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, where did all these Polish come from? Copeg, New York became the largest area of expatriated Polish outside of Poland.
Nice. The
whole neighborhood is Polish, and Black Lives Matter is completely fucking terrified. Because
and that's why I'm like, why are you guys coming to Hegewisch? Because we don't have as large a density of Polish people, but we still got that as our cultural backbone here.
Bro, get what I'm trying to paint though. This picture, check this out.
Yeah,
you've got Black Lives Matter, which is a communist movement, and they're trying to cut through a town that is populated by blonde-haired, blue-eyed, 6-foot-tall commie killers. That's who the fuck these people are. Most of these guys are covered with fucking ink. I don't know what the hell it says because I don't read Polish. But yeah, you don't want to fuck with these guys. I think I told you about my one friend that one time I'm talking to him. I tell him I have a problem. He looks at me and goes, Scoob, somebody give you trouble? Yeah, man, it's just this, that, and the third. Oh. Clack, clack. He pulls out his Desert Eagle.
I remember that guy, yeah.
I'm like, Jesus Christ, this thing throws fucking D batteries at you. He's like, yeah, it's no problem. You, my friend, you give you problem, we fix. There be no more beef. I'm looking at him like, Jesus, remind me never to piss this guy off. But I mean, like, we're sitting at a party. He pulls this thing out of his waistband. It's like, holy shit, he whips out a howitzer. I'm like, Jesus. But I've seen in those neighborhoods, like, they don't care. Like, I'll never forget it. There was this one black girl, and she's screaming and yelling about something, and these Polish guys walk past, and this one guy hauls off and fucking backhands her, and she's on the ground out cold, and he looks right down at her, fuck you, bitch, and just keeps walking. They don't fucking care. They dealt with communism in the old country. Fuck you, communist! I kill you. That's all the shit you hear them saying. Like, they're all screaming on the TV. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. You see in Copeg, they're walking past like this with their placards. They're terrified. Like, these people, they don't fucking care. They do not give a shit. They're like, oh, you're a communist. It means you are shit. Like, they say that to them. Bro, I tell you, I really, when they first were moving in, a lot of us did not like them. because, bro, they were mean. You Americans are all pussies. You're all soft. You're like women. You're all bitches. And like we're sitting there like, you know what? Fuck you. But now it's great because we're sitting there and he's like, fuck you. Look at you, you piece of shit, you Black Lives Matter, you communist, fuck you. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, you tell him, fucking Carol. Go for it, bro. Lace into him. Kind of weird when they have those women's names, like Carol, but it's spelled with a K.
Yeah. It's like kind of like Carl, but it's Polish. It's weird.
It's Carol. Carol. That's how it's pronounced. I call him Carol.
Yeah,
they don't realize. They don't realize I'm calling him a chick's name. So.
And then you correct him, and he lays you out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's like I did to my one friend once. His name was Louise, and I was busting his balls. I'm like, you do realize that that's a woman's name? He's like, I'm Spanish. I said, I know. That's why I'm telling you that because it's funny. But he got all bent out of shape with me. He's like, you trying to call me a bitch? I said, no, not because of your name. I would have said that actually because of your ponytail and those cone tits you got. And then he fucking swung at me. Well, I've never denied being an asshole. I wear it on my sleeve.
Oh, I love being an asshole.
It makes life more fun.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that anti-communist insanity. That's why I love Iron more. Every other time, it's like, oh, you have a private over there. Oh, I have this. I have this. I have this. You know, just get me on the plane.
Yeah, seriously. He's a good kid.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
one of these years we're gonna have to get him his citizenship over here, man. It's gonna be a blast.
He should move out by me, like I was just saying. He'd have a ball, the whole neighborhood. It's like little Poland. You go in there. I couldn't tell you what anything is. Everything like it all starts with a K. There's a few Y's and Z's thrown in there, and that's the name of the joint. You can tell when you get to the middle of the name because that's usually where a C appears. Okay, there's a letter C. We're getting towards the end of this name. You know?
Yeah, I know.
K W Y Z Z Z Z Y Y Y Y. Oh, there's the C. Okay, we're getting towards the end. Y Z Z Z Y, and then the last W. Like, okay, how do you pronounce this place? Oh, that is Kazuko. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not getting a taxi from that place. Let me just walk 2 stores over to 7-Eleven.
And then they throw you for a loop, and they put a ski on the end of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. I think I didn't get a chance to take you to that deli when you're out here. The Polish deli with the bacon. That we got the chef who comes all the way out from out east just for that bacon on Thursday when they make it.
We didn't do that. God,
I got it. I asked my sister and my mother one year. They asked me for Christmas. They're like, "What do you want for Christmas?" I said, honestly, I said, "Get me a half." They got 2 different types of Polish bacon. Get me a half a pound of each. Like, that's what you want for Christmas? I said, yeah. Oh, it was such a good Christmas. I got that, and I got a case of Sam Adams.
Sweet.
Oh yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I definitely got to try and find that Sam Adams in a can. That was actually really fucking good. Another weird thing that they made in a can, they took the zombie dust they like and they put it in the can, and holy shit, it's actually better.
I realized that zombie dust. I didn't realize I had heard it before. That's a beer from down New Orleans way, right?
It's right next door here. It's in Indiana. It's Three Floyd's Brewery.
Okay, because they got one that's a similar name. There's a bar by me. It's the only bar on, I think on the East Coast, actually. It's the only bar that you can go to where they have this shit on tap. And I think they might actually offer a beer down there, so there might be a lawsuit going on between that brewery then and yours, since I don't think either one of them is privy to the other. I think one of the beers that they had was named Zombie Dust. But the beer that I used to, and I constantly get it when I go to this place, it's, and I'm not a beer drinker per se. It has to be a craft beer, only because I'm getting too old to drink. The beer that I get, it's called Purple Haze, and it's a blueberry raspberry ale.
Interesting.
And it's bright purple in color.
That sounds like Betty Weiss. That's the Leinenkugels. That shit is almost impossible to find, but it's so fucking good. It's a literal purple beer. It's the same mixture as that.
Yeah, and we got it on tap at the bar by me.
Oh, now I gotta go to that bar.
Well, yeah, that's the one I wanted to go to, and we didn't get a chance because we were eating like savages every night. It's the one I think I drove past. this place, this is the one I told you. You can go in there and you can get a po' boy sandwich, a Cajun one, where it's on the Sicilian ciabatta bread with the andouille gravy and the Cajun coleslaw all on the sandwich.
God, that sounds good.
Yeah, and they'll give you a side of sweet potato fries smothered in andouille gravy. It's really good.
And andouille is delicious. Oh God, I haven't had that in so long.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, next time you guys come out here, we'll go to this place. The food is fantastic. I gotta ask though, because it's 3 a.m. my time. I'm exhausted. Can we call it a night?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right, yeah, let me hit the broadcast button. Hit the button. Hit it again.